Dumelang and welcome to Botswana Kabula. Botswana, the essence of stability. We invite you to explore the spirit of strength and witness its profound impact on our people and the world. Our doors are always open for business in a safe, secure, peaceful, and thriving environment. This peace and tranquility allows our people to express themselves freely, fostering a society of diverse ideas and opinions. Our people are ready and waiting to host you with beaming smiles and enchanting song and dance. Driven by our rich history and cultural heritage, we are proud to share our stories with the world. Every narrative, every challenge, every effort, whether good or bad, shapes our collective identity. The beautiful, colorful, and alluring landscapes of Botswana welcome you. In this stable and majestic atmosphere, we safeguard our natural resources, preserving some of the world's most unique physical features. The sheer harmony between our people and nature is a testament to the sustainability and balance we strive to maintain for future generations. Come and meet the right business partners and investors to diversify and expand. Set up your investment in Botswana and leverage on Botswana's proximity to the wider Southern African market. Our interconnected road, rail networks, coupled with bespoke infrastructural developments, make it easy for you to open shop, network, and trade in Botswana. These serve our economy and benefit our citizens positively, fueling economic growth and social progress. It is through reliable, stable governance and steadfast vision that we transform all our aspirations into tangible achievements. In a quest to make our country conducive for meetings, conferencing, and multi-sectoral tourism hub, we are more than ready to welcome the world to our shores. We invite you to be part of this remarkable African story, to witness the realization of the promises made and dreams fulfilled. Together, let us forge ahead, shaping a brighter future that is grounded in peace and harmony. This is Botswana, our pride, your destination.
Good afternoon, and Dumela, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Botswana Country Focus event. My name is Jonathan Berman from Autonomy Capital, and I have the honor of moderating this afternoon's session. Before we come to the panel, we are going to have an address from His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Botswana to the United Kingdom, Mr. Shamani Kalatswe. High Commissioner, can I welcome you to the stage, please?
Dumela Mbareso. It means good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. As already indicated, my name is Shimane Kelaotswe, and I'm the High Commissioner Designate of the Republic of Botswana to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a distinct honor for me to welcome you this afternoon to Botswana Country Roundtable session here in London during the Africa Financial Services Investment Conference, AFSIC 2024. At the outset, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for taking part in this interactive session, and we are delighted to be here and look forward to a fruitful and meaningful engagement with you as we explore future collaboration for mutual benefit. As I welcome you to this event of Botswana Country Summit at AFSIC Summit 2024, I wish to express my profound appreciation for your presence here today, which will without any doubt contribute in no small measure to the success of the summit. As I extend this gratitude, allow me to further express my deep appreciation to the AFSIC 2024 team for their commendable effort of being the torchbearers in providing a platform for active engagement to explore business opportunities between the citizens of the Republic of Botswana and their counterparts here in the United Kingdom and beyond. Your commitment to providing Botswana with this platform has been invaluable in, among others, fostering connections and highlighting the abundant opportunities that exist within our nation. We are truly grateful for your partnership and continued support in promoting investment in Botswana from mutually beneficial partnerships. To the esteemed Botswana delegates, particularly those representing the private sector, I wish to extend a special thanks to you for your unwavering commitment to the economic advancement of our country, the Republic of Botswana. I have no doubt that your participation here today will go a long way in showcasing Botswana's vibrant entrepreneurial landscape, and in the process, generate business partnerships, which is an imperative for realizing the development vision and trajectory of our country. I encourage you all to engage fully throughout the interactive session, as you are well positioned to discuss potential opportunities for collaboration. The government of the Republic of Botswana on its side indeed acknowledges the critical role of the private sector in its economic advancement and development. Additionally, we are delighted to invite you to visit our Botswana exhibition stand W18, where you can explore Botswana's investment opportunities in greater depth and have further conversation on how we can work together to unlock new opportunities and potential. Distinguished delegates, at this juncture, I would like to share a few key facts about my country, our country, the Republic of Botswana, which I'm convinced can assist one in their assessment of whether to consider the country as an investment destination. As a vibrant multi-party democracy, and by the way, we're going for elections, end of democratic, free and fair election, end of this year, on the 30th of October, and we can confidently assure you that it's going to be free and fair elections. As a vibrant multi-party democracy, the Republic of Botswana transformed from being one of the poorest countries in 1966, that is the year when we got our independence, to where it is now in 2024, as a high middle-income country registering GDP per capita of US $7,599 in 2023. This transformation has been testament of Botswana's long-standing prudent management of the economy, and as such, demonstrating our readiness to effectively host sophisticated global multinational companies. In this regard, Botswana government continues in its efforts towards accelerating reforms to improve the ease of doing business in the country. Our national aspiration is to become a high-income economy by the year 2036, as envisioned in our national vision. To achieve this, we have adopted multi-pronged policies and strategies, such as the reset agenda and digital transformation strategy to drive national development and economic growth. As we open this roundtable session, I implore you all to fully engage one another in dynamic discussions to further explore prospects of generating business collaboration and mutually beneficial investment partnerships. I am confident today that today's session will lead to fruitful outcomes, paving the way for impactful projects and collaboration that will drive Botswana's continued success on the global stage. Once again, allow me to thank you for your participation, and I now declare Botswana Roundtable session officially open. I look forward to productive conversations ahead, and I thank you for the courtesy of your attention.
Thank you, High Commissioner. I would now like to welcome Ms. Malebogo Kote, who heads the Botswana Investment and Trade Commission office here in the UK, but who, as I have discovered, covers many, many more markets than the UK for Botswana's investment, to come up and make a brief opening presentation before we have the full panel on stage. Lebo.
Hi, Commissioner. I'm sorry I'm physically challenged, so I'm going to move this flag this side. I'm sorry, High Commissioner, if this is not protocol, but anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, High Commissioner, I've acknowledged you, any government officials here present, captains of industries, my private sector, I welcome you. And would like to say good afternoon. High Commissioner has opened the session. Mine was to share with you Botswana at length, but he has covered it. He's very unfair because he saw my presentation. But anyway, sorry, a slide down. Botswana is a pretty little country. We say little in a nice way, but very beautiful, precious country, land linked to borders with 4 countries, with a population of 2.35 million, but with a market size of 235 million. We are in the center of SADC region. Remember, we border with 4 countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and South Africa. Centrally located, easy in terms of transport and logistics. If you look at the slide, our country is very small, hence I'm saying very small and pretty, 582,000, size of Texas. And then our GDP looks pretty much good, USD 19.31 billion, and then GDP per capita, we've been doing very well in that space with USD 7.5. In terms of inflation rate, we are doing quite well with 3.9 as of September 2024, and then we're looking at interest rates effective August 2024. Monetary policy reforms were at 1.9%. A lot of key exports are listed here, but we'll share a lot of those in detail when we do our panel discussion. Key import products, we are an import-oriented country, hence we are here today to say to you, our doors are open for you to come in, manufacture, to come in, do anything that we can do to cut off our import-export bill. We see ourselves exporting to countries as far as India, UAE, Belgium, and exporting different type of goods, from your diamonds, your machinery, and we looking more into exporting than importing. So I think instead of covering the next slide, it's basically more on what we're going to talk about in the panel discussion. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I was just giving you the glance of Botswana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lebo. And there's never any harm to reinforce the same points, because they are such good points, whether they're made by the High Commissioner or by you. I'd now like to welcome the panelists up to the stage, where we're going to have a discussion in more detail about both their history investing in Botswana and facilitating investment and the new opportunities and challenges of the years ahead. Can the panelists please come up?
Which side of you do you want me to sit? Of the side? Okay, great. Okay, all right.
Do you want to go to the far end? You want to be in the middle? You're in the middle. That's fine.
Okay, so I should be in the middle.
So we're sandwiches.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, great. Let's do that.
All right. Well, let me introduce the two newly joined members of the panel, although we've been planning for a while for this panel. If I can start to my immediate right, Ms. Neo Muki, who plays two roles, because she has what you might call your day job with Generali, a very large European investment and insurance group, but she's also the chairperson of the BSE, the Botswana Stock Exchange, and I guess is largely going to speak from that perspective here, although we'd love to hear some international comparisons as well if we can, Neo. And then to her right, Mr. Opo Manyatsi, who heads Letsecha, which is a diversified Botswana-based financial services group, which has spread quite a lot across the region, which is quite an achievement. But I was also delighted to hear that when we met, that we were ex-colleagues from another bank many years ago. So it is a small world in finance.
Yeah.
If I can start, I'll ask you each to make a few scene-setting comments about how you see things. And I think we've reflected on Botswana's successes to date, but I'd like you to maybe unpack both the successes and particularly how the organizations that you respectively represent see the opportunities. And if I may, I'll start with you, Opa.
Thank you, and good afternoon, all. I represent Letsecha Africa Holdings, which was born in Botswana in 1998, so it's 25 years old today. We've successfully diversified geographically into 11 countries, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and Western Africa. Partly due to the policy and enabling environment that allowed us to expand. We have quite a diverse shareholder base, comprising of local shareholders and international shareholders. A big part of the expansion plan was facilitated by our listing on the Botswana Stock Exchange in 2007, where we raised capital that we then used to expand our footprint. And it was important for us to use Botswana as a springboard to really address what we thought was a huge gap across the continent. So I'm very proud to demonstrate that the little pretty country that Lebo spoke about actually can be a fantastic incubator for a business that wants to expand beyond the borders of Botswana. So yeah, thank you, John.
Thanks, Opa.
Yeah.
Now, turning to you, what role can the BSE play now in attracting capital to the country? And I'm thinking beyond purely capital nationally, but also regionally and internationally.
Well, when I was growing up, I'd say that Botswana was known as a landlocked country. Right? But now I think, having grown up and having lived most of my life outside of Botswana and looking at its trajectory now, I'd say it's actually land-linked and globally integrated. And the Botswana Stock Exchange plays a very crucial. Is it not working? Sorry, excuse me. Is that working now? Yeah, so I would say that the Botswana Stock Exchange obviously plays a very big role. But I think in terms of economically, I think Botswana is a safe pair of hands. When you think of global financial hubs, cities like London, New York, and Hong Kong come to mind. But Botswana, I think, deserves a spot on that list, despite being a little pretty country. You know, I'm an actuary by training, and as an investor as well, I manage about $800 billion at Generali. But my goal is to be a safe pair of hands for my investors, you know, for them to be able to sleep at night, knowing that their investments are safe and that they're going to get their money back, at least get their money back. And I think Botswana, I liken Botswana to a safe pair of hands, the ultimate safe pair of hands in Africa. First of all, there are no exchange controls in Botswana. You can move money in and out freely. We've got the highest sovereign credit rating in Africa. We are investment grade rated, BBB by S&P, A3 by Moody's. So we actually offer, you know, stability to investors, making it a safe place for investments. As Jonathan and the High Commissioner says, political stability, one of the most stable countries in Africa, and one of the third most attractive investment countries in Africa. And then the BSE, so that the Botswana Stock Exchange is built for growth. It is the third largest exchange in Africa. Did you know that? We offer dual listings for investments, you know, across Tokyo, London, and the New York Stock Exchange. We have deep liquidity in Botswana. The pension funds manage $10 billion in assets, making us the third largest in Africa per capita. Our funds invest globally across asset classes, making the BSE a hotspot for raising capital. This pretty little country. We're a hub for raising capital because we have more than 170 listed investments, including equities, bonds, sustainable bonds, and with companies like Anglo-American and Lucara and Investec have all leveraged our markets to raise capital both locally and internationally. Our global recognition, the BSE, we are a member of the World Federation of Exchanges. And we have partnerships, international partnerships, that mean that international investors can trust our platform. Plus, we have a multi-currency platform. And that means that companies can actually dual list on the BSE while accessing both local and international capital. And then we do have a track record. You know, we've had successful stories in terms of IPOs and capital raising that have been oversubscribed, right? In 2016, we privatized our telecommunications business, and it was 1.7 times oversubscribed. Letshego is one of our success stories.
Indeed.
And we are preparing for a 2 billion listing very imminently. So if you look at the Botswana Stock Exchange, actually international firms raise more capital than local companies, proving that Botswana is a truly international hub. So why Botswana, in conclusion, we are a financial powerhouse in Africa with no exchange controls, with strong credit rating, investment grade level, deep liquidity, and a globally recognized stock exchange. We are the ideal environment for raising capital for international investors. If you're an investor and you're looking for a safe pair of hands, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an actuary, but in Africa, look no further. Botswana is the place to be.
Thank you. Thanks for the opening statements, everyone. If we could drill into a little bit more detail, and Lebo, I'll start with you, if I may. Could you talk a little bit more about the specific regulatory framework? We've heard about the general low risk and attractive investment environment, but often not a day-to-day level. The government has to tweak things as they go along. So what are some examples of specific regulatory change to attract investors?
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for the question. Already been introduced, and I introduced myself. I'm Malebo Kokote from Botswana Investment and Trade Center, based here in London as the International Business Director. And when I talk about Botswana, I get so much pride because, when you have experts and techno like my panelist right here, who has laid the foundation and ground of who Botswana is, for me, it will be to show you how easy it is to do business in Botswana, how easy it is for you to invest or to become our investor in terms of laying down the red carpet for you and cutting any bureaucracy as the IPA and the apex of the country. BITC, Botswana Investment and Trade Center, is a parastatal estate-owned entity under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, who has been tasked to lure investments into the country, especially look at foreign direct investment, maintain and retain existing domestic as well as foreign direct investment. In terms of the policies, Jonathan, there's been a lot of traction and a lot of happening and changes in the acts. Our government, the leader, has seen it fit to move things, shift things around so that he can make Botswana an investment destination. Investment protection law. As an investor, you must be confident and be comfortable to invest in Botswana. One, we do not force you to have a citizen owner or director. You can open your business as a foreign investor. Two, your investments are protected. Our law has amended a couple of acts, whether it's the Special Economic Zones Act. There's been the investment protection law that would say to you, you can repatriate your profits as and when you want to do so. They spoke about foreign exchange control. This is one of the amendments that was done also in the Income Tax Act. The Income Tax has enabled entities such as Letshego to be comfortable, entities as well as international, Letshego is indigenous, international entities to raise capital, to invest from Botswana and raise capital within the country. The investment law, there's been a lot of shifting in the space in terms of the investment law, where the president has even opened an office within his space for investment promotion. And the reason I'm saying it's an investment protection law is that it's in the act, it's an act. The good thing about Botswana is that everything is in the act and everyone has a say to say, this is what I want or this is what I feel comfortable with. Jonathan, there's been a lot of policies and reforms that has taken place. We can go as far as till when SIPA, the company registration, BITC, all those that enables investment and make the investment live conducive in Botswana. So we have a stand, as the High Commissioner's alluded. Those are some of the things that we can unpack. I'm looking at the time, but yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lebo. I'll come back to you later about a couple of the specific sectors that are newly being regulated, but thank you for setting that scene. Opa, if I could ask you about the Botswana IFSC, the International Financial Services Center. I mean, this is a fairly rare thing for an African country to have, and I know Lesotho was one of the first companies certified by the IFSC. Could you tell us both about your experience with it and how you think it can help other companies?
Most certainly. I think we are one of the early companies to be accredited and certified under the IFSC in Botswana. It was important for us, if you looked at the journey that Lesotho undertook, for several reasons. The first one was Lesotho had an ambition to use Botswana as the springboard, looking at the independent judicial system, the enabling legislative environment, but also the predictability of policy. So at the back of that, we knew that if our heart and vision is to be international, we needed to be in a space where we subscribe and ascribe to international standards. So IFSC gets you in to comply with the Basel Accord, OECD, some of the global AML standards, and it just really makes you attractive to global investors who want to know and appreciate the standards that you comply with. So that was the first gift that registering with IFSC gave us. Secondly, operating in 11 markets meant that we consolidate in Botswana as an IFSC registered entity. So you can imagine what it means if you don't have double tax agreements, consolidation, withholding tax on dividends, royalties, and management fees. If you are not IFSC accredited, it means the tax burden will be so insurmountable. So as a result of the IFSC accreditation, we find that we get a lot of waivers for tax as we consolidate in Botswana. Waivers on the dividends that we consolidate, management fees and royalties. This also extends to funders and investors. Funders on the dividends that they get, and investors on the dividends they get, funders on the interest that they get on the loans gets waived, the tax gets waived there. But most importantly, the facilitation. We are Pan-African business. So we have Pan-African talent and global talent coming in. So part of the facilitation for work permits and all those other non-financial value adds that the IFSC is able to ring fence, we found that very, very useful. Typically, when someone queues for a work permit, we get our work permits in record time. We're able to bring global skills with no issues of any non-financial IFSC company would otherwise face. Just if you are thinking of registering as an IFSC entity, corporate tax is 22% in Botswana, which is relatively low in African standards, but in IFSC standards, you pay 15%. So you look at that delta, it is actually something that can go directly to your bottom line. The IFSC through the BITC also facilitates global trade networking platforms. So we find that that's a great opportunity for us to grow our network of funders, investors, and even new partners, whether they're fintechs that we partner with or strategic partners that we need for product and distribution. Thank you.
Thanks. And I think one of the interesting points that you picked up on there was the AML standards. We know there's increasing scrutiny through many international organizations of some financial centers, and the fact that Botswana has not suffered the grey listing of some of your neighbors and competitors is a tribute, actually.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And for those of us who deal in many countries in the region, we know those things become challenges. Actually,
a big one.
Challenges. So, yeah.
A big one. I think one of the key things that you would see is that in some markets, when you position yourself as an IFSC entity, you can swing the pendulum to an extent where sometimes you are considered a tax haven, or you can actually provide tax benefit, yet being seen as responsible in that regard. And I think what we found in the Botswana context is that they managed to strike that right balance between giving investors that tax optimization without creating an aura of being a tax haven. And we've now started to see a lot of investors coming into the fold as a result of that sweet spot that the IFSC has found. Thank you.
Now, you talked a little bit about the exchange being so open to new listings. Could you give us a little bit more of a sense of which sectors you've seen the most activity in? I mean, I assume you would welcome any sector within reason as long as it's legal and reputable, but which ones do you see the most interest in on the exchange?
Just
Sorry. I think in terms of sectors, there's quite a lot of activity right across the board. As I've said, we've got 170 listed instruments. But what we've seen most recently is that Botswana has become a sort of a hub for sustainable investing. We've seen a record number of sort of sustainable bonds being listed on the exchange, and there's quite a few that are on the train. So I think in terms of, as a country, Botswana is being seen as a hub for sustainable investing. And I'll tell you what's driven that, actually. I think, as I said, the Botswana Stock Exchange is the third largest stock exchange in Africa. I know the PowerPoint says fifth, but it's the third. And one of the reforms, and I'll touch upon positive regulation. One of the reforms that have come into play, which have played into the sectors that are active recently, is the pensions reform. And the pensions reform, it's really important. It's important that investors know about this. It's moved the cap for an investment in local investments from 30% to 50%. So imagine going to a local market and you're only spending 30% of your income in the local market and 70% outside. So we've reversed that. And what that has done is that it's brought $730 million of assets repatriated back into the country. Just imagine how much of a difference that can make.
Yeah.
730 million. And in addition to that, the Act has opened up, more flexibility to more alternative investments such as private equity, infrastructure equity, hedge funds, and so forth, including also making sure that these investments as well have very strong ESG credentials, such that we're not only it's not just about money, but it's about money making an impact. And I was in the country 3 weeks ago, and I had the honor of being invited by the president to go and observe a groundbreaking of an infrastructure project. There was a smart meter on one day. There were like 3 things, and he said something that was really beautiful that I'd like to share with you. He said, I would like to turn Botswana into, and I think it's important for investors to hear this, I would like to turn Botswana into a construction site. What a beautiful thing. And having, I trained in the city in London, and London, when you look across the city, what do you see? You see
cranes
everywhere, right? And I used to hate them. I thought they were hideous. I hated the cranes. And then whenever there was a market wobble, such as just a tiny wobble, the global financial crisis, not that important, or COVID, you notice the cranes disappeared, right? And then you realize, actually, the cranes, even though they're unsightly, they're a good thing. And the president saying, I want to turn this country into a construction site, has a very deep meaning, which means I'm inviting investments, I'm inviting infrastructure investments, I'm inviting investors into the country. And I met quite a few companies that were coming from outside, welcomed to come and collaborate with Botswana, with the government, to come and invest. So if we're talking about the reform, these reforms are going to increasingly repatriate assets into the country. We've not yet hit 50%, the 50% that we're aiming for. There's still at least 15% to bring back into the country. And that is money that is going to need a home. That is money that is going to need to be put to work somewhere. And that is where kind of, sustainable investments, sustainable infrastructure investments. And in terms of other new listings that we're seeing is exchange traded funds. So we've got about 14 of them that are in the pipes. Again, they're going to be sustainable as well. So I would say that my day-to-day job is an investor, and Botswana is no different. Money is being put to work where we are putting it to work in Italy or in London. It's in sustainable investing, it's in infrastructure investing, and if you have a business and you'd like to benefit from sort of raising capital, both whether it's on the exchange or through our 10 billion pension fund, then Botswana is the place to be. And sorry, I forgot to mention a couple of other things. So mining. Did you guys see the news the other day that Lucara, the second biggest diamond was actually uncovered in Botswana, right? I mean, that was headlines all over the press. So mining also offers opportunities. I see money continuing to flow into that space, but also tourism. We have the Okavango Delta, which is one of the most beautiful places. It's a UN UNESCO heritage site, and it's attracting a lot of sustainable investments as well. So those are the places. So there's a lot of money being repatriated into the country that's going to need a home. There's the president has said it, and the government is prepared to welcome investors to come and really put that money to work. But we're not just putting that money to work just for the sake of money, but we want that money to make an impact as well.
Thanks, No, and thanks for picking up on the infrastructure theme, which I was going to come to. So thank you anyway. Could I maybe turn to Opa and to Lebo to talk a little bit about, from your own perspectives, how you see some of the opportunities and challenges in infrastructure?
Yeah, I think from where we're sitting, I see infrastructure in different lanes. There's the hard infrastructure that we talk about, the roads, the telecommunication, the water reticulation, and all that. And I actually think if we look at our current budget that was read out beginning of this year, there is a huge focus, actually an unprecedented allocation to what we call hard infrastructure. In that. So when we start to look at where we need to do is that we need to support that hard infrastructure a lot more, and the work has started with policies that enable the private sector to take the burden away from government on hard infrastructure. And I'm very pleased that government has started that in terms of triple Ps, or public-private partnerships, where you will start to see, for instance, a road or railway infrastructure that's being built, instead of now being 100% government, there is an invitation for investors to come in and participate in that hard infrastructure. And I think it's quite exciting, and it'll go a long way in having that done. Where I'm also quite excited and passionate about is what I call, in my own loose terms, soft infrastructure. And this is where we look at things like the enabling resources, the people, whether we have the right people, trained, resource to be able to support what it is we are doing, and whether we also have the enabling integration points that allow for intra-country trade and connectivity around that. You would have seen announcements from our government, led by the president, that allows for movement of people between us and Namibia just using ID without passports. And there is a conversation again with all the other markets that are close or around Botswana. Hence, Lebo was talking about this is giving you access to 250 million, a population of 250 million instead of 2.3 million. When you start opening up the borders for trade and seeing it as a single block of consumers. I think that those enabling policies, and actually then looking at how you create the requisite skill base. So the investment in the education, especially specific skill sets, whether it's AI, new technologies and all that, to make sure that as the world moves ahead, we are creating a base of resources that will contend with the global integration. I think we've started the point, but that's a place that we could actually double down and increase a lot on. So I'm optimistic that we are making the right decisions. The private sector is coming in and pledging its support. At Letshego, we sponsored what we call the Digital Academy, where we took in entrepreneurs and youth in Botswana, sponsored them for 2 years across all these technical capabilities, whether it's AI, cloud, hypercomputing, and everything. And they are not supposed to be employees of Letshego. They can go out and work and or be entrepreneurs or start companies. But it is the right resources for us to build sustainably, not just for Botswana, but for Africa. So I think if we start to see the exponential impact of other private sector companies doing the same, we'll be able to complement the efforts that the government is doing in that regard.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you switch it?
Yeah, I think flick it again. Yeah.
I can't turn on a mic, right? That's terrible. To add to that as well, I think it kind of adds to the theme of the country becoming a construction site. Because for me, and I know that we've spoken about this before, I see that not being just from an infrastructure perspective, as in hard infrastructure, but innovation. And I think it's really exciting to be in Botswana and seeing all the innovation that is happening, including even in financial markets. There is not a single instrument, not a single, structured solutions. There's, incredible things. There's AI, there's electric cars being built, et cetera, et cetera. So there's quite a lot of excitement in terms of the country just being a construction site from the point of view of it being, having the leadership that is very, very open to innovation. And from your question earlier, one of the areas where we are also spending quite a bit of time is making sure that our SMEs, our small and medium-sized enterprises, are also benefiting and are going to be in a good stead to benefit from this influx of capital coming back into the country, coming up with structures, working with the Letshegos, structurizations to make sure that SMEs can also access capital, because it's not just for the corporates to grow, but we all have to all come up together. The Botswana Stock Exchange runs a program called the TPD Mentorship Program, where we mentor SMEs and we teach them, get them prepared to step up from being SME status into the corporate, or the next phase. And very soon we've got one company called the Botswana Building Society. It's just about to list. It's going to be IPOing very, very soon as a graduate from that mentorship program. And as I've said, there's another impending IPO. I won't mention the name. 2 billion coming up very imminently. And so I think it's that sort of, it's not just building a construction site of a country from a hard infrastructure perspective, as I said. What is exciting is just the openness to innovation and making sure that it's the financial markets, it's AI, it's everywhere where there's a lot of innovation, and all of this is going to benefit from the money that is currently being repatriated back into the country, because it needs to find a home, right? It has to find a home.
Money needs to find a home, indeed. I'd like to take some questions, but I'm conscious we're running a little bit short of time, and we have a closing statement still to come. So what I'm going to suggest is, for those who have questions, please, after we finish with our closing statement, come and meet the panelists. I'm sure they'll be hanging around for coffee. Before we finish, I'd like to invite Ms. Malebogo Mpugwa, who's the Chief People Officer from De Beers Group, who's going to make a closing statement. And I hope I don't need to introduce De Beers as a company, but I'm sure you'll say what needs to be said.
I take it this mic is working. Brilliant. What a delight to connect with all of you, and I hope you are as inspired and as excited as I am after having listened to the panel. The Director of Ceremonies in absentia, the High Commissioner who has left, distinguished guests, our amazing panel that has really, really shared with you a lot about our country and the amazing things we do in Botswana, and definitely members of the media here present. My role is a very simple one. It's really to close this session. And as I do that, I would like to thank a couple of people. Let me start off by first and foremost thanking our High Commissioner, who was responsible together with our BITC colleagues for giving the welcome remarks, setting the context about Botswana, and giving you a flavor of what our country is all about, so that as you think about investment opportunities, you get a sense of what Botswana is all about. But not only that, I think it is through his vision and his leadership that he continues to make sure that Botswana is the prime investment center, and we talk about the great that the amazing country that we come from actually does. A big thank you goes to the BITC. We are here today because they made it possible. The BITC was responsible for sharing. You've understood the comprehensive overview of Botswana so that you understand more about Botswana, but also really setting a very firm foundation for this afternoon's presentation as they shared their insights about the country. One of the things that I learned very quickly through my corporate career is that apparently investors look for, certainly investors in Africa, look for three main things, amongst other things, when they are making decisions about investment. The first thing is around the ease of doing business. If I invest and I put money in the country, what is the rule of law? I think the panelists has demonstrated that the ease of doing business in Botswana is undoubtedly one where you can safely, as an investor, say, I can put money in the country, there's a rule of law, there's political stability, there's opportunities for real economic growth. And that has also been confirmed by reports that have been done by the World Bank, where Botswana was rated amongst the countries that, without a doubt, highly favorable from a broader stable economy and a political climate. The second thing, which is closer to what I do on a day-to-day basis as the Chief People Officer for De Beers, is around, will I find the skills and the people? Because you can have the infrastructure, you can have the technology, you can have the systems, but you won't get far if you don't have the skills. And I think our panelists certainly have demonstrated to you that through IFSC, how we can be able to help make sure that not only do you tap onto the local skills, but there's certainly an opportunity to bring the local talent into the country. The good news is, if you look at from budget-wise, and you look at the level of investment that Botswana makes towards education, 20% of our entire GDP is set aside for education. I can say, and without any shadow of doubt and without hesitation, that each and every member of this panel will tell you that they have benefited from responsible decision, responsible leadership that has prioritized education. And we talk with confidence because we understand the value of education, and that is why the skills are available in the country. And where the skills are not available, you can bring the skills into the country, and you have very seamless processes that allow you to be able to do that. The third, which is equally important, is power. You see, in Africa, power is a big issue. Electricity is a big issue. I don't have to go far. You have seen the neighboring countries that we work with or that are closer to our country. Let me allow you to join the dots and quickly pick it up for yourself where the challenges exist. I can assure you that Botswana does not have the same challenge. And so if in doubt, you can be assured that indeed we are a country that can tell you that the ease of doing business and the things that matter to investors are true and are in place. The panelists have demonstrated that, and I think they've certainly shared the destination for investors because of what Botswana offers. In closing, let me also share with you a couple of things. I think the key thing is why Africa and why Botswana. If you look, Africa is a country, is a continent where, after Asia, from a population growth perspective, it is the second continent that is really growing the population, with 1.5 billion people in Africa and growing at around 100 million every 3 years. Where else would you want to invest if not in a continent that is showing possibility? And then you look at a country like Botswana, which has amongst one of the countries that has a fairly young population, because the youth are the people, talking about innovation, talking about ideas of how we can actually find opportunities to grow our economy. It is the youth. About 40% of the population in Botswana is considered to be youth. And so just adding to what our colleagues and definitely our distinguished guests and panelists have shared with you. Let me close by bringing it closer to home and talk. I stand here as myself from De Beers Group, but also as a Motswana. You know, let me give you very simple examples. When I first came to this amazing country, as I walked through immigration, and the officer who was assisting me at immigration looked at the passport and said, this is a passport that we hardly ever see. But by no means, the few people that use this passport, we don't have issues. Can you imagine the pride as you walk into a country that you have no idea how they'll welcome you? The first guy you see at immigration assures you that you've got the right passport because you are coming from the right country. But, and I hear the bell and I understand the optics and I understand the message loud and clear. Sharing and very closing, just to close off a little bit, is to also talk about the partnership for Botswana together with De Beers. As I've mentioned, I work for a company called De Beers. We have more than 5 decades of partnership with Botswana. And to use the words of our president, who is an advocate, a sponsor, an ambassador, who is passionate about natural diamonds because of the impact that it has in our economy and what it has done for our country. Every time you buy a diamond, you are putting a young woman, a young girl through school. Every time you buy a diamond, you are making sure that the health facilities work and somebody's mortality is increased. Every time you buy a diamond, the hard infrastructure that the panelists spoke about becomes a reality, and the soft infrastructure. Every time you buy a natural diamond, you are investing far beyond just the beauty and the sparkle that I have as a representation of the company that I work for. And so, as our president has said, we have a wonderful relationship, but this relationship, just to give you an example, started 5 decades, 55 years to be precise. 55 years ago, it started off with the discovery of diamonds. After discovering diamonds, De Beers, in partnership with Botswana government and with a very responsible leadership that understood the value of using the diamonds for the benefit of the country and the people of Botswana, got De Beers to set up a sorting and valuing facility, which is really about exactly that, the clues in the name, sorting and valuing of diamonds. A few years ahead, beneficiation, which is a terminology that has been coined within the diamond industry, became a reality because the government was very clear that what is important is that even though diamonds are forever, diamond mines are not forever. And so how do we ensure that beyond the life of the diamonds, we're able to make sure that the country benefits? And so cutting and polishing industries were set up, and as a way to try and move further down the value chain. You will know that recently De Beers moved its operations, its rough trading sales to Botswana, and once again recently moved its auction sales into Botswana. I say this not to give credit to De Beers, but to give credit to the partnership. No big multinational would be willing to continue to make the level of investment and move its sites into a country if it didn't have confidence in the country and if it didn't have confidence in the leadership through our President, President Dr. Mokgweetsi Masisi. And so for us as a company, not only have we done that, but we've signed a long-term agreement with the government of Botswana that takes us way into 2054, which is the life of the mining assets. And that, once again, is a demonstration of the investment that certainly the partnership does. But it is beyond diamonds. It is also thinking about how else do we diversify the economy. And so I just wanted to give you those insights just as a demonstration that, you see, when you invest in a country like Botswana, when you've got big multinationals that are doing the same, we do that because of the country, we do that because of the policies that work, we do it because of the responsible leadership. And our president, as I say, talks a lot about the natural diamonds and the impact that it creates. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close and thank you and thank the amazing panelists, thank the organizers, and indeed thank His Excellency the High Commissioner. Thank you. Last but not least, the panel moderator did a fantastic job. Well done to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Ma. Pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for rushing through this. Thanks again. Please do come up to the panelists over coffee afterwards and ask questions, but we have to now make way for the next session.